Hello and welcome to The German Guy Reviews. I'm The German Guy. How to best describe Otto Walkes? He's a comedian, a musician, an actor who voiced Mushu in Disney's Mulan, which got even mentioned as an example of good voice acting on the commentary. An artist with portraits and stuff, but ultimately I think the best way to describe him is a mix of Weird Al Yankovic and Jim Carrey, but with even more energy drinks in his blood circulation, and whose childish antic settings were put on indefinite on a control panel inside his brain. His humor can be called localized, by which I mean it's centered around where he is from, a little nowhere place called Friesland, way up in the north along the coast, which for me is very relatable, because I am a child of the northern plains.
Skyrim doesn't belong to you, Ulfric.
No, but I belong to her.
So mag wie dat. But most notably, he is the creator of a little species called Ottifanten. 'Cause Otto and elephant. They were an idea he began to play with when he was but a little Otto who scribbled on paper during school hours. These horrible abominations whose trunk seems to be erect all of the time. How can I keep it hard for that long? And now that I said it, I won't be able to unsee it. So, thanks disturbed psyche of mine, I will now look at creatures with dicks in their faces for the next few hours. And those of you who are very smart and pay attention 100% of the time since day one, good job. You will get extra credit on your score. But secondarily, you will also have realized that the Ottifanten are part of my intro, which was made possible because there was eventually an animated sitcom about them. Meet Family Bommel, with the father Paul, a pencil pusher and butt of every joke, Renate the mother, who exists, Grandpa who is old but still full of life, and Bruno the baby, saying silly stuff voiced by Otto himself. But don't worry, this time the baby is not secretly a psychopath. And when the new millennium rolled around, a movie came out. So, let's see how it holds up. This is Die Ottifanten. We start off the movie with what appears to be historical footage about the ghost ship from Phantom Hourglass. But really, it's the ship of a wealthy dude. Real pirates show up eventually, led by Klaus Störtebeker, a famous pirate and real historical figure that has reached legendary status like Blackbeard, a man so fearsome that countless of myths began popping up around him. He beats up the guards and, yeah, thanks, what I said about me only seeing dicks in their faces still stands, and finishes his raid. Afterwards, Störtebeker buries all the gold.
Arr, now we bury the treasure.
Captain, I know we usually bury the treasure, but what if this time we use it to buy things? You know, things we like.
However, shortly later, he is captured and sentenced to death, and since he is going to die either way, he really has no reason to tell the merchant where he left the riches.
My fortune is yours for the taking, but you'll have to find it first. I left everything I own in one piece.
It's off with his head time, but just like in one of the legends, even after being decapitated, he keeps walking like a chicken. Well, all we need to do now is set up a social media profile and you will fit in right with the modern crowd.
Okay, Boomer.
We go to the future. Not our present, but past future. In 1924, a young sailor and an old captain sit in a bar. And then a Jew and a Mexican walk in. The captain telling the young lad this tall tale, saying that only a map was found after the execution, but one which nobody could decipher. He hands it over from his pocket, full of other treasure maps. This is basically just your average NPC handing out adventures. If you don't like the pirate questline, I also got mummies, and if you feel very daring, alien temple. On a beautiful morning we meet Paul jogging, and as per usual, the entire galaxy is shitting on him. He comes home where his wife asks how much money they will spend to save the struggling hospital. Translation, once this movie is over, nobody's getting anything. Yeah, it's the journey that is the true treasure. Well, nice memories won't pay off the loan sharks. They are going to use a cheese slicer on my thumbs. Also, I always wondered, the planes, the boats, the traveling guides, all the other equipment, how much do these Indiana Jones types actually make at the end of the day? I mean, Nathan Drake isn't exactly living inside a palace. Lara Croft does, but didn't she inherit her wealth? I'm too lazy to look it up. What I'm trying to say is, it must feel like when you get your first paycheck and look how much is left after taxes. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, Paul goes to work, where once again life punches his penis nose again and again. His employee card doesn't work properly, his secretary, who doesn't give two shits about doing her work correctly and whose office space is a freaking jungle, that's how many plans she has, and his boss, who still doesn't respect him. Also the janitor lady. Best character ever. Boss Lady Giga Chat. She has reached a level of sass and coolness, it breaks the boundaries of time and space itself. But there's actually a reason why we join Paul at his workplace. Not to watch him make money to feed his family, but because so that we can learn that his boss has an important mission for him. He wants a big nameplate in the new hospital, so he hands over a big sum to his employee that he needs to get delivered. But the inevitable happens. After work, Paul joins the janitor lady in betting on pig races. Because of a misunderstanding, he bets the money of his boss and loses it all. Quite frankly, boss, you know me for years and a non-existent luck that I'm having, so when you really think about it, it's your fault. Having lost all his money, the only logical solution is of course to go on a wild goose chase, trying to find Störtebeker's treasure. So Paul gets his son and dad into the car driving to Hamburg to see if they can find someone who can figure out the meaning of the map. On their way there, they drive through the Reeperbahn, the infamous red light district of the city. Entertainment for the whole family! Seriously though, during daytime you can actually see parents with their kids having lunch there. Behind a billboard of a giant lady in latex. We just don't have the same neurotic, puritanical value system as others. We meet a villain of the movie, a sleazy mafia type of guy who owns one half of the map. He wants to buy Grandpa's half, but that's a certain big no. The mobster offers to play a game. The winner gets both pieces. Meanwhile, Paul is the guardian of the car and needs coins for the parking meter, so he goes to a sex shop. But the storekeeper tells him that he has to buy something in order to get change.
Ja, also ich nehme dann diese Kondome mit Erdbeergeschmack und ein paar von den Erdbeeren mit Kondomgeschmack.
Oh, I know what I'm going to buy for the trick-or-treaters on Halloween. Grandpa wins the poker match, but their car gets trashed, so they take the train. Suddenly, the gangster return to take the map back. A wild chase begins. Papa Bommel, derewhile, is once more reminded that the universe just hates him. Characters like Paul are basically the modern version of the Book of Job. And then God said, "Send in the frogs, because why not?" Their investigation leads them to a fair. After some more crazy ups and downs, because they end up on a roller coaster, Paul decides to go to the police, but a mob man bribes a corrupt officer, who puts them in a cell. It just so happens that a biker gang wants to bust out some members of theirs, which comes as a pleasant surprise for the Bommels. After hours of running from the police, they end up in the city park, where they are saved and fed by some vagabond people. We really need to bring back the kind homeless person trope. Grandpa visits an old flame of his, who works for the bad guy, telling him where his hideout is. He kicks in the door armed, but little Bruno followed him and got captured. However, Paul also gets to shine this one time and rescues his family. But this was only the start. The bad guys get back up and start hunting them. In the process, Grandpa gets grazed with a bullet and meets the Grim Reaper, but it's not his time yet. After the map got wet, our heroes figure out that what the paper depicts is a map of the island of Sylt, just a few kilometers off the coast. The reason why they could not figure this out before is because the map is over 600 years old and the island looked different back then. Huh, you know, come to think of it, changing geographics is something that more adventure films should take into account. Because Paul is a moron, he announced the location of the treasure to the entire country on live TV, leading to the island being torn apart by a small army of people grabbed by gold fever. And my god, have you ever seen piranhas ripping a huge steak apart? It's like that. Just sheer total madness for 10 minutes straight. This is the first time we get to invade something in a long time, just let us have this. Grandpa finds the chest, but again, Paul can't keep his mouth shut. Why are you even telling him anything anymore? It turns out it was all for nothing. The chest is empty. Worse yet, the criminals come back seeking revenge, but the janitor lady with her diamond balls just sends them back to the ocean. Out of nowhere, the ghost of Klaus Störtebeker himself shows up, who I guess was entertained by this whole show, which is why he hands over his ring, which, can you believe it, is exactly equal to the amount of money they need to save the hospital. The ship flies away, the family goes home, and that's it. This movie is pretty okay, but ultimately forgettable. The original TV series came out when I was like 5 or something, and watching this I had many positive flashbacks. I think I have to give it another watch sometime. Be that as it may, the movie is a beautiful round circle. The animation is smooth and pleasant to look at, the action scenes, while certainly not the best that I have ever seen, keep you engaged. But the centerpiece of this film is its comedy, and by God, it delivers. There are so many great one-liners and visual gags that I can't count them all. Sadly, there isn't an English translation anywhere, but well, that's just how it is. If I had to level one criticism against it, it's that I wish that Paul would have gotten a character arc that led him to become a bit more confident and less idiotic. Not a complete character transformation, just a few moments where he overcomes his troubles, not just by having luck one time. Even the moment where he was the hero gets immediately undone by him being again a goofy dum-dum, tripping over his own feet a few seconds later. But then again, that's not the point. The point is to see characters that you already know from the show act as their characters. To see a movie where everyone starts and ends the same way is actually nice to see once in a while. It's a silly adventure with good humor. Not knowing any German will drag it down for you, but you will most likely get the most of it by how the scenes play out. Plus, as I said, there's as much visual humor as spoken one, so that should equal it out. The German guy out and auf Wiedersehen.